Oji Rose, and today we're going to be talking about the start of the Philosophy of Right course at Philosophy Portal, which is headed up by Cadell Last. It will be starting this Saturday, May 18th at 7 p.m. Central European Time. I think Hegel's Philosophy of Right is very important. I think it's a text that's really putting its finger on what we need to think politics today. And if we don't think politics today, I think there are some real problems that can arise. I think in the same way that in science, a hypothesis needs to go through experimentation and testing and falsification to become a theory, I think there is something about philosophy that actually needs to think the state, the political, the communal, the common life, the concrete, or else it tends to just be a hypothesis. And that doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong, but it does mean it may be prone to fall into being a good idea that actually is in the way of our flourishing, or it gets in the way of us living life as we should. Good ideas can be an enemy of the absolute or the actual, and I think Hegel understood that very well. And I think thinking politics can actually help philosophy be something more that we can live and more optimal. And the Philosophy of Right, I think, really covers an extraordinary range of really important topics. Hegel really also, funny enough, we tend to associate Hegel with someone that's very abstract, very out there, but actually I think Hegel is working very, very hard to help philosophy align with the now, with the concrete, with the immediate. It's just that human beings, we're always thinking, we're always in our heads, and so you have to talk about ideas and you have to work with ideas to get to the concrete and the actual. Furthermore, the actual is moving through time. It is unfolding in different ways according to human freedom. And so what we think and what we choose impacts how the world unfolds, so we have to take thinking very seriously. I think Hegel also is fascinating in that rather than basing his political project on, say, some state of nature like a Rousseau or a Hobbes, I think he bases it very much on the state of now, as I've called it in Hegel's justification of Hegel. And, what we find ourselves as human beings as soon as we're born, as I was talking with Cadell about, there's this feeling that we ought to be able to do anything. Inside, we feel like we shouldn't be restricted by our immediacy, and yet we find ourselves restricted by immediacy, by our determinations. And so much of the political question and the philosophical question, I would argue, is about how can we bring together what is with what ought to be. Not sacrificing is for ought, or sacrificing ought for is, but seeing in isness oughtness. Well, that right there runs into being complacent or passive. So we have to somehow see in is an unfolding and realization of the ought. Well, how's that even possible? Like, how do we, we start off already feeling like is and ought are a part. How in the world can we identify with what is and willingly participate in it, and to see how the state has unfolded through history as actually being in service of freedom somehow? We tend to assume that the state is always restricting us. What if it was somehow contributing to our realization or the realization of freedom? I think if we make the state an enemy of freedom, Hegel would say that's a really big mistake, because the state helps us mediate difference, it helps us exist in community, it helps us realize the ethical, so on and so forth. So we really should not make an enemy of the state. But it's very difficult not to. Also, what do you do if the state is something like the capital nation state that Karatani talks about, and it seems to be in service of various forms of alienation and so on and so forth? But these are the challenges we need to think, and if we're not thinking these, then I think there's something philosophy is missing that's very important, and that missing is extremely consequential. So some of the categories the class will be going over, some major themes of the abstract right, will, direct, immediate concept, the personal embodiment, morality, the will of the subject, contrasted with the right of the world, the universal idea. Then Cadell will get into the ethical system, unity of two in nature, natural spirit of family, civic community, and state. And after that, the family, sexual love and reproduction, civic community, local social organizations, state and world spirit, individual independence, and universal substance. There are many ways to get involved. The Philosophy Portal has really been wonderful as a community. The courses, but they've been orbiting around courses that are dealing with real text and real thinking. There's been tremendous conferences. The anthologies have been wonderful. These will all be, there will be opportunities for all of these involved with the class. I'd also check out the trailer that Cadell has put up at philosophyportal.com. The class will run from May 18th to around June 29th. There will also be a conference anthology post-course, and Dimitri is going to lead some the exegetical readings of the text. Dimitri is awesome, and he had a tremendous conversation with Cadell on his YouTube channel on Actual Spirit. And for more on the class, please visit philosophyportal.online. The YouTube channel as well has lots of information. And I certainly hope to see you at the course. I highly suggest it. There is still time to sign up, and I encourage you to do so today.